Hello, this is Blue Star, defender of Equestria. The world of Maretime Bay, magic, mysteries, and ponies. Yay! This is in some ways what I call is this working? Okay. This is in some ways what I call what's like a focus on panel where I go and I talk about like specific topics within Maretime Bay, and there is definitely a lot to talk about. So let's get going. There we go. It's like the next generation, sort of in general, definitely a new generation for the modern era, because things have changed so much, even from when Friendship is Magic started to now. The short answer. And yes, the difficult bit was, at first it feels like most of the G4 canon was tossed aside to make way for a new story. And I must admit, I felt kind of the same way that I think a lot of ponies felt. It's like, what happened? But despite everything that's happened within Generation 5 so far, the magic of friendship lives on. Oops, hey.
Sorry, I thought I had that ring wrong still in there.
Oh, okay. I'm going to be using that word an awful lot, so that's going to be a problem. But yeah, so certainly, as Babylon 5 once said, nothing's the same anymore. But that may not necessarily be such a bad thing. I mean, obviously we've gone from 3D, we've gone from like the 2D to 3D, which brings both good and bad things. The main one being that, you know, it takes a lot more time to do stuff in 3D, so there's going to be less characters, locations, etc., etc. But the thing with this is that this could mean, so this will lead to a smaller show, but it could have some interesting possibilities. Kind of like with the campfire scenes, like where we have the characters basically just talking, sitting around a campfire and talking about their feelings and stuff, that some of the other characters that may normally not have gotten any attention at all, we might actually get to learn about them. That, you know, my best example of this is, especially as a Royal Guard, is Zoom and Thunder. I mean, for starters, they have names. They have lines, they have character. You know, Queen Haven calls them directly by name. They have more character stuff going on in like the 3 scenes they're in across all of, you know, Generation 4. So that might mean that the background ponies, we might get to learn about them. We might get to learn their names, their backstories, and they may all have at some point a moment to shine. Recent history, well, at least recent for the ponies of Maretime Bay, because much has definitely happened since Generation 4 and now. There are essentially what I like to call is 3 basic periods: the crisis, the separation, and the reunification. Roar! By the way, it's like, I don't know, they just kind of just developed, it's not gang related or anything, so. Anyway, it's like, yeah, the crisis where a Earth pony was hurt in a magical accident by a unicorn, and okay, I could understand, but this sort of thing has happened before. In some ways, the main 6 were infamous for this. And you know, AMY Pony once said, the main 6 can do whatever they want as long as they learn a lesson. You know? They've caused magical accidents, got innocent ponies involved in things, so it's happened before. It'll probably happen again. But then again, and we were in such a good place at the end of Generation 4. It's like, this doesn't feel like enough to break that. But then again, the Generation 5 ponies are only piecing this together now. So maybe there were other things going on. Maybe there was like 3 or 4 other crises, and this was just like the straw that broke the camel's back. It's like, all right, that's it. We don't want to be friends anymore. Which unfortunately led to the separation, where Twilight puts all magic into 3 crystals, and then the 3 pony kinds go and take their crystals to their own little corners in Equestria and just basically stay apart from each other. Definitely a very sad day for Equestria. And yeah, my first thoughts are, why, Twilight? Why would you do such a thing? But it may have been the only option, because as a famous quote once said, all diplomatic channels have been exhausted. Our only option left is all-out war. Which is, if Twilight had not done this, that's probably what would have happened next, is that the 3 pony kinds would have gone into full-on civil war with each other, and that obviously would have been bad. And then obviously, when you have, 3 people who just don't want to do anything but fight with each other, sometimes, yeah, it's like, okay, you go, go to your rooms and stay away from each other. But the good news is that maybe Twilight had a plan in this. Maybe she thought that, well, if I separate them this way, that at some point, maybe magic will go away. And maybe then, at that point, to get it back, they'll learn that they have to come back together in order to have magic, which is sort of what happens. It may have taken generations, but in the reunification, there is hope for us all. Because the spark of magic that was passed on through the generations, through ponies like Argyle, then to Sunny, to the main five, and then through the whole of Equestria, despite everything that's happened, the magic of friendship still lives on. And that, in some ways, this is almost a topic in itself. It's like how was the main five actually bring the three pony kinds back together? But I think the short answer is that it's like these three ponies see. Look at what the main five have done. Look how hard they've tried to stay friends. Look what they tried to do. You know what? Maybe we can be friends after all. And that was the spark that brought back friendship and magic throughout Equestria. So yeah, now the future. Sort of like the main features of the future, because definitely a lot of things have changed, to say the least. One of the big ones is technology. Because it's such a part of our daily lives now. I mean, as much as we like that fantasy era, things, kids, there's things in that fantasy era that the modern audience just simply can't relate to, like record players. How many of the, I remember record players, but I don't think that most of the modern kid audience even knows what a record player is. And again, technology is so important now. I mean, when I was in school, this was my cell phone. It makes phone calls. Wow. Well, it did until the battery shorted out anyway. I'm going to say that was a long time ago. Today, these are our phones. This has more power than my first laptop. And that has changed so much. Even when Friendship is Magic started, I honestly don't remember when social media was social media, but even since over 13 years that Friendship is Magic started, social media and all these things have exploded, so that it's such a part of our daily lives now. And I think in some ways it would be a disservice to the new audience to not include things like technology and social media, because they affect our lives in ways that they have never affected us before. And it enables characters like Pip to even be here. I mean, I guess technically you could have a character like Pip in Friendship is Magic, but it makes it so much easier. But it's difficult to have a social media star without social media. But now that it's here, now that Pip can be here and we can talk about the good and the not so good things about social media and pursue those kinds of lessons and stories. But the good news is that that fantasy era and those fantasy elements aren't completely gone. Some of them are still here, like Zephyr Heights is the perfect embodiment of this. I mean, we've got a castle on the top of a mountain. This is like classic fantasy stuff. But at the same time, we've got LCD screens, social media, cell phones, technology, so it's basically a fantasy world, but dressed up with some new technology. And one of the big things in the future is that we have three very different pony kinds that have a lot to learn, not only about themselves, but each other. The three pony kinds have not been in contact with each other, like, at all for generations. So they have to, there was an episode in Tell Your Tale where, they were trying to, they completely forgot this unicorn holiday that Izzy was trying to celebrate. It's like, and at the end of the episode, they basically said, we have to work harder to remember every pony's special days. That's what we're going to talk about later, is that the other thing is these ponies are starting from zero when it comes from, each other and magic, and they have to learn not only about their own magic, but the magic of the other ponies as well, what it can and can't do. And yeah, so these three cultures have a lot to learn, and in some ways, the thing I like that sort of shows this a bit is Winter Wish Day, where we have three cultures that are basically celebrating the same holiday, but they're celebrating it somewhat differently. Sort of like with Santa Claus. There's like hundreds of different versions of Santa Claus. He had, depending on what country you're in, it's like he has different appearances, different backstories, all those sorts of things. but they're all describing the same basic person. So, yeah, I want to talk about briefly, because in some ways we don't really know a lot about the backstory and, you know, these two locations, but obviously talking about the world of Maretime Bay, I thought I'd talk about them even briefly. That Bridalwood, a low-tech but lovely forest artist hideaway. Because in general, I stress in general, the unicorns have sort of maintained that kind of tradition from Friendship is Magic of being sort of like the artists, creatives, the thinkers, again, question mark, because we haven't really gotten to know a lot of other unicorns, et cetera. But yeah, like in Friendship is Magic, a lot of unicorns were studying spells, they were doing artistic things, like Rarity was essentially an artist in fabric. So in some ways, you know, a place like this might suit them, you know, they may not need that technology. But overall, Bridalwood is, you know, again, it may be low tech, but it certainly is nice, and I would think in some ways a perfect place an artist might want to hang out. Zephyr Heights, a fancy fantasy world mixed with technology. Again, I mean, this architecture is, you know, it's almost in that fantasy era, but then again, there's a lot of technology and other things going on. So, I mean, again, we haven't really met a lot of other Pegasi and what they like and stuff. But yeah, in general, there's sort of the, you know, the Pegasi continue to be sort of the adventurers / active ponies interested in things like flying, and obviously being a royal guard, also, you know, having the Pegasi guard, and they also like royalty and those sorts of things. So. So the big one, Maretime Bay, a classic small town where every pony is welcome. I would say the Earth ponies in general are sort of almost seem to be the more everyday kind of ponies. They're working, you know, the more kind of everyday kind of jobs. I mean, they're running trams, working in factories, those sorts of, you know, being sheriff and stuff, running smoothing cars. So, but of course now with the Earth pony magic being, you know, now that they have Earth pony magic, that could change. So, yeah, Maretime Bay itself, it does in some ways feel almost like a classic small town where the main part that we think of, like the town, appears to be mostly services, shops, stores, those sorts of things, and the ponies live kind of outside of it. Like Posey's house is like over on the other side of this hill. The Bright House is like 1.5 to 2 miles away from the town itself. So, I'm talking about the Crystal Bright House. I really like the Crystal Bright House because it's definitely a practical home for Unity, and the main 5 as well. I mean, comparing this to like Twilight's Castle, where, yeah, it screamed play set. It's like, this doesn't work within, you know, it totally doesn't, it sticks out like a sore thumb in Ponyville. It doesn't fit, it doesn't feel like it belongs here. This does. This almost feels like something that a real pony would want to build and would want to live in. I mean, you go through and you look at it, it's actually pretty nice. There's mosaic, they have mosaic tile floors. The materials that they used in making it are pretty nice. I mean, the stained glass window in the front is amazing. I mean, whoever designed and built this thing spent a lot of time trying to make it a nice place to live. And yes, it kind of screams playset to me, but it still works to me. I mean, yes, if I saw a building like this driving down the road, I'd be a little like, that's odd, but okay. Talk briefly about some of these other locations, like Canterlogic, shut down. Oh, because yeah, Canterlogic was, you know, Canterlogic was almost sort of like the big GM factory in this town. They probably employed a lot of these ponies, and if it shut down, that would be devastating for a town like this. So at first, I didn't want to believe that it was shut down, but apparently, from Make Your Mark and Tell Your Tale, yes, it was. But however, there may be a way that Canterlogic might come back in the future. Main Melody, where all the world's a colorful stage. I mean, yes, I mean, it definitely in some ways fits Pip's personality of being very colorful, bright, almost cartoony. I must say it's a little unusual concept of trying to style someone's mane while performing on stage, but hey. But overall, I like Main Melody. I think it actually works. And Hitch's sheriff station, small, but functional. Barely. It's like, yeah, this could be just about any office anywhere, other than if you ignore that, what is it, I don't know what that thing is called, whether you stand in front of the pictures where you get your mug shots. But yeah, I mean, it's small, but it works. I mean, I hope that it can tell your tale that Hitch actually has like a bedroom or something somewhere, because we see him in Make Your Mark sleeping in the filing cabinet. Otherwise, I hope we get to see more of this, because we haven't yet to see that room, or Sparky's room either. So, anyway, moving on. So yes, talking briefly about the main five, because I will be hosting an entire panel on the main five and the supervillains tomorrow. That, as Babylon 5 once said, no pony here is exactly what they appear. Because these are less like elements of harmony and more like real people. They're not just, I mean, they're like, I don't want to say the term one-dimensional, but they're not what I like to call just this characters. This is a shy pony, this is a country pony, this is a artistic pony. They all have different sides, they have different interests, and there's more to them than when they first appear. Like Zip. Zip's cutie mark is practically a clone of Rainbow Dash's, and sure, flying's important to her, but so is the sciences. She likes learning about how things work and wants to be a detective and all those sorts of things. So she's more than just flying. She can be more than one thing. So I like that. Yes, of course, you can't have heroes. You gotta have supervillains. So if you're gonna maniacal laugh with me, you have to at least be in sync. Ready? So yes, Opaline, cunning, manipulative, and compromised. Like that's why this is my kind of supervillain. That she's thoughtful, she's cunning, she's manipulative. She believes in things like recon. Instead of just busting through the door and she wants to know more about the Crystal Bright House, magic, etc., etc. She wants to know that whatever she's going to do is actually going to succeed, rather than just busting through the door. But at the same time, yeah, she's compromised. She's not as powerful as she once was, and that gives her such interesting motivations, and that makes her she's more than just a supervillain for the main five to confront and defeat at some point. She's more like a character that they have to overcome in some different way. And of course, Misty, the most adorable minion ever. It's like even in this picture, Opaline is like, what is my next evil plan going to be? Misty's just like, hi, I'm Misty. But that's what makes her perfect as a minion for Opaline, because nobody would think that she's working for the supervillain. She's just too nice. And definitely seeing where she and Opaline are going to go is definitely going to be something that I'm looking forward to seeing. And briefly, Opaline's version of history, which I don't believe is true, because she says that all magic came from alicorns. Yeah, I don't believe that. But there's probably an element of truth to that. I'm interested to seeing what is that element of truth. And yes, the Dark Castle, a small but perfect home for a supervillain. It's like, I forgot to mention with the Crystal Bright House. It's like, yeah, I think there's a story there that hasn't been told, or wasn't told, that probably all the three pony kinds came together to build the Crystal Bright House. But I feel like there's also a story that hasn't yet been told about the Dark Castle, because to me, this looks like this could be a smaller part of a much larger castle. But inside but unfortunately, you haven't yet got to see very much of the Dark Castle yet. You've basically only seen Opaline's throne room, a few other rooms that are kind of on the side. I can tell your tale, we appear to see what would be like Opaline's living room sort of thing, in Opaline's throne room, there's pretty much nothing there. I mean, it's kind of artsy and pretty, but there's actually nothing in there other than the throne and the mirror pool with the bill. So I look forward to learning more about the Dark Castle and seeing, what other, secrets it might be hiding. Now we definitely move on to what I call the focus on part of this video, magic. Because the rules have definitely changed. And I must admit, it does seem kind of surprising that, yeah, all the rules of magic have changed so much. Like, the sun and the moon raise themselves? When did that happen? It's like the weather takes care of itself. What gives? Well, there may not be a magic story answer for this yet, but there's a couple of, like writing things. Well, at some point it seems between the separation and the reunification, all ponies lost all magic at some point, so yeah, they couldn't do those jobs anyway. But yeah, but also because we're in that sort of modern fantasy, since we've sort of left that fantasy world behind where a lot of that stuff fit and it made sense. We're more in a modern technological world. Those things don't really make much sense anymore. And also, this was such a huge burden to the ponies. They were in charge of every single aspect of their world, everything from, governing themselves to managing their world and the natural systems. That was a lot of things for the ponies to do. But when it comes to the sun and the moon, it's like there could be one answer. It's like, well, maybe that amulet that was at the end of Friendship is Magic, maybe it's being run somewhere by some sort of atomic clock. So I don't know. Of course, in some ways, the biggest thing that's changed in a lot of ways is the Earth ponies now have magic. It's like this has never happened before. The Earth ponies have never had magic. So that definitely, and even Sunny points us out, this opens up a whole planet of possibilities. Also. It also can open up a cosmos of calamities. Because again, all the ponies, especially the Earth ponies, are starting from zero. No pony has had anything to do with magic for ages. There's no pony that has magic, knows how to use it, or knows anything about it. So they have no pony to teach them how to use magic, or even what it's capable of. So that really puts them in a huge problem. One I've been seeing physically, one of the big things is only one cutie mark. I have this vision of my OC waking up as being like transformed into a pony, like as a Generation 5 pony, and being like, oh no, what's happened to my cutie mark? Oh, okay, it's over there. All right, that's okay. Weird, but okay. So yeah, I mean, in some ways the cutie mark has gotten, in less importance because in like Friendship is Magic, it practically covered like their whole leg. Now it feels more like it's like a little tattoo thing that was put on the side. But at the same time, it's actually grown in importance because it's almost become like the symbol of, their magic. Like in this picture, it's like their cutie mark magic and the magic in general is combining. And now it also represents when their sparkle is shining so bright and whatever that pony is doing, whatever makes that pony special and all those sorts of things. So, yes, a lot of things have changed, but the good news is, friendship is still magic. As AOI Pony once said, in this universe, friendship is literally magic. It's basically the thing that drives this world. Once you understand this is more than just the subtitle of Generation 4, everything about this world starts to click into place. When the ponies are unified and friends, things are good. When the ponies are being divisive and fighting with each other, things are bad. So yeah, and these ponies are only just learning that. But regardless, friendship is still magic and is still the thing that drives this world. Now we're going to move into more specific topics like the unity crystals. Because again, when the ponies are unified and working together, things are good. But when they're not, things are bad. And as some pony once said that I can't remember, their world tries to kill them. Which in some ways is maybe what the void is supposed to represent. But exactly how does the unity crystals work exactly? Obviously they're powered by unity. Like in this picture, we see the three, the main five are just hanging out. They're just enjoying being together, just having a good time. And we see that energy being cast visibly into the crystal, which is why I almost feel like it's almost important for the main five to live in and around the crystal, because maybe, while certainly it's all the ponies' unity that matters, maybe their magic is almost strengthening the crystal. But I think in general, how the unity crystals work, it's almost what's known as in electronics as a capacitor. A capacitor basically stores energy, and when it's full, releases it all at once. It's kind of like filling up a bucket of water, and when it's all full, you dump it out all at once. So it feels like the steady state of the crystals is like, okay, it's building up energy, releasing it, building up energy, releasing it, building up energy, releasing it. And this would explain the glitching, because like when the ponies are being divisive and fighting with each other, it doesn't quite reach that discharge point, and there's a moment where none of that energy is being released, and there's no magic. But then when it reaches that discharge point, releases all that magic. The magic is back, everything's good. The frisbee. I wish I had more. I wish I could explain how it works, but it seems it doesn't make much sense to me. To borrow a line from one of the Star Trek episodes, it's like it's not coming from anywhere. It's just there. I mean, if like the Unity crystals are at the bottom of the shaft, I could say, okay, the Unity crystals are somehow generating the frisbee, but it just seems to just come out of nowhere. In an episode of in one of the first episodes of Tell Your Tale, when the main five first move into the Crystal Bright House, there's no frisbee. But after they come together and they fix up the Crystal Bright House, all of a sudden there's a frisbee. So maybe it's tied to their unity or something. But I think from a writing standpoint, it just it's there to represent when pony unity is kind of working. When you can see the frisbee, things are good. When you can't see the frisbee, things are bad. Sunny's alicorn powers. My first question is, why? It's like, why does Sunny have these alicorn powers? Why Sunny? Well, it seems to be that, well, the crystals realize, okay, this world needs an alicorn to hold all the ponies together. Maybe it's not quite ready for, to have an alicorn princess rule over all of them, but there has to be this pony that's like keeping the other ponies in line and keeping them together. Yeah, and why Sunny? I mean, she not only brought back all the pony kinds, she's been fighting this fight all her life. And the other thing is that Sunny is not driven by, I want to bring magic back so I can have magic. She's driven by, I want to bring magic back so that all the ponies can have it back. Because I just want to make the world a better place. That is why I think that she almost doesn't realize when she's an alicorn sometimes. Like in this picture, it's like, I just want to help. She's on like that emotional high of, I just want to help ponies. This is so amazing. This is great. So yeah, like Sunny, the next alicorn princess? I think short term, no. Long term, maybe. Because I don't think neither Sunny nor Equestria are ready to have like an alicorn princess rule over all of them. They just got back together only a couple months ago. And Sunny is in some ways still learning her alicorn powers. But exactly how do the alicorn powers work? I mean, Alicon, I think, explained it fairly well, is that they can't just be there for any reasons. Again, these alicorn powers, they're not a reward. They're a responsibility. So yeah, so they're driven. So they're driven by when Sunny's at her best self, and that best self is when she's trying to help ponies and make the world a better place. I also think that these alicorn powers are internal to Sunny in the sense of that they're separate from the unity magic that's coming from the crystals. Because as we see in chapter 1, magic is flickering, magic is glitching, it's fading, it's not working properly. And even though Sunny is kind of struggling to summon her alicorn powers, it's clearly there. And it would make sense for the crystals to basically grant someone magic that will work in any situation. Because especially in the situation where the ponies are being divisive and are fighting with each other, it would be really bad timing for the alicorn to not have any magic herself. Sunny versus Opaline sort of originally meant this as, there's going to be some kind of confrontation between Sunny and Opaline at some point. And who would win in that confrontation? But I also like this in how different they are from each other. That again, Sunny is driven by trying to make the world a better place. Opaline is driven by magic is rightfully mine. It belongs to me. And those are two very different things. But in that confrontation, who would win? It's kind of difficult, because at first I thought, well, Sunny, and make your mark, Sunny is still kind of mastering her alicorn powers. She's still like, I'm not really sure how to use these. So, And Opaline, she may be compromised, but she has way more experience than Sunny does. She knows how to do things that Sunny doesn't even know that she can do yet. So Sunny's got the power, Opaline's got the experience. Those two things kind of cancel each other out. However, in Tell Your Tale, we see an episode where brain no longer function, where Sunny basically masters her alicorn powers. So Tell Your Tale, Sunny might have the edge on that one. So, but in any case, we shall see. The Hope Lantern. My first thoughts are, where did it get the Prisbeam power from? Because when we first see it, it's very different when we first see the lantern in the new generation, but it basically just has this magic glowing crystal in it. But when we see at the end of chapter 1, we see that all of a sudden it has this Prisbeam power. Where did it come from? As you can see, as Sunny's jumping through the void, there's no Prisbeam. So, but as she's transforming into an alicorn, pay attention to the lantern. Now there's a Prisbeam. And it seems to me that, you know, the lantern was in Sunny's mouth while she's like powering him and becoming an alicorn. And some of that energy was probably passed into the lantern when that happened. So this contains like a little bit of like Prisbeam / alicorn magic. So, Yes, the Hope Lantern, more than just a magic relic, for two reasons. But the magic reason is that we see that it has, you know, a lot of power in it, as we saw, that it has a little bit of Sunny's alicorn magic in it. That, you know, we see it in Tell Your Tale and Make Your Mark. It transforms this beaten-up tram car into the Maretime, but it also is powering the Maretime. So, yeah, so, unfortunately, to Opaline, it's just a magic relic. It's a battery. It contains magic that she could use and harness. And that might be true to her, but it also means so much more to Sunny, because, you know, it was made for her by her father, you know, when she was just a little filly, to the point where it's like she still wants to have it next to her while she's sleeping. So, because, you know, Argyle built it in the hope that one day his daughter would live in a unified world. And that, I think, has continued on through the ages. But yeah, so it means so much more to Sunny than just simply a magic relic or a battery. But, so it's hope for her, but it's also hope for, you know, Equestria as a whole, because in the situation, like in chapter 1, where the ponies are being divisive and fighting with each other, maybe all that magic, that might be the thing that, you know, that might help us get out of that situation. So I think we're going to be seeing the Hope Lantern an awful lot, and there's definitely things about it that we have yet to learn about it, so. The Mastery. As a virtual pilot, I love the idea of the Maretime, and definitely has a lot of interesting implications, because it's definitely more than just a vehicle. You know, yes, it serves a lot of purposes, one being, yes, to, you know, basically carry the main 5 between the 3 locations, because they're really far away, and even in an episode of Tell Your Tale, it's like, after running from Maretime Bay, it's, Queen, hey, Queen, Haven, I was thinking, well, of course, Sunny, it's a long way from Maretime Bay. But it also serves kind of as an RV, as we see in this episode of Tell Your Tale, because the Maretime, I believe, is based on the Airstream trailers, which ironically are actually built using aircraft technology, using aluminum rivets and stuff. So yeah, it'll be, you know, so sometimes it'll be like, okay, we're just going to use this to get between the 3 cities, but we're also going to use it to, okay, we're going to land somewhere, and we're going to use this as our base camp while we're doing something else. But in some ways, the most significant thing about the Maretime is that this is magic and technology working together. People look at magic and technology as being opposite forces. You can have one or the other. But as Laurel line from Babylon 5, technology and magic are like the shoes on your feet. You get further with both than with just one. But yeah, you see that the Maretime is being powered by magic, but it's technology that's essentially controlling it. However, this is not the first time that we've seen this. The Super Cider Squeezy 6000, where Flim and Flam first appear, is essentially being powered by magic. So in some ways this isn't a new idea, but I like that they brought it back here, because this could open up a whole new world of possibilities, maybe even a whole new level of like science, you know, combining magic and technology. There could be so many interesting implications with that. And it could be the revival of counter logic, that instead of making technology to defeat magic, maybe they will make the technology that actually uses magic in some way. So definitely look forward to seeing more about the Mirror Stream and seeing where they go with this, both literally and story-wise. God. Whoops.
Back up here.
It's the magic tree, the new tree of harmony? Or is this the tree of harmony? I actually did a video on this, and the long story short is there is evidence that says that there is, and there's also evidence that says that it isn't. So, But at the same time, this tree was created the same basic way the tree of harmony was created. It was created by the main five coming together to contribute each of a little bit of their magic to create the magic tree, just like the pillars came and contributed a little bit of their magic to create the seed that eventually would become the magic, the elements of harmony. And the interesting thing is that it appears that Sparky is somehow connected to it. You see him placing his hand on like the roots of the tree and almost passing his energy into it. Almost sort of like, I mean, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Is he's just like, here's some energy, you know, or it's like he's like connecting to it almost like telepathically or something. But as he's like walking away, he's like waving at the tree, and the tree's like glowing. It's almost like, hi, it was nice meeting you. See you later. So I definitely don't think we're done with this, and I look forward to seeing where they go with this. So. So yes, things are very different than they were in Generation 4. So many things have changed, from the rules of magic to these ponies, what kinds of things they can do, what they can't do. So, but I really like the world of Maretime Bay, because, you know, sometimes we have to be broken before we can be put back together even stronger than we were before. And yes, and that's why it felt sad at first that they basically, almost in a way, undid everything that Friendship is Magic did. But again, despite everything that's happened, Friendship survived through all the generations now, to the point where it's actually stronger than it's ever been before. And in some ways, this is our recent history. We've been through a crisis, a separation, and a reunification. And this world says that, you know, despite all our problems, this is the way things are, but they do not have to stay that way. That we can decide to do something better. We can decide to choose friendship over these divisiveness. The one thing I know for certain is that this world, these ponies, and everything they stand for is still worth defending. And I'm looking forward to seeing more. Roar! Thank you. I'm surprised that I finished early. I've never finished this early. But so if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask, microphone, please.
I'll say that was in the back first.
Yes.
You had a question?
Yes. So from the G4 world, I think we're looking at like a huge geographical area, and it seems like things have been scaled down a little bit in G5. So unless there's been some sort of geographical reconfiguration of the landscape, there should be a much, much wider world out there in in terms of the population numbers that we see in the show versus what there would be if there were a non-cataclysmic event. Do you see any evidence for lands beyond that may exhibit this sort of triad of cultures in different places, or is it still too early to see evidence of that sort of thing going on?
This is one of those difficult things. It's like where I know the reason why is because now it's a 3D show. There's a lot less opportunity of let's go here, let's do that, let's bring back this race. You know, in some ways, especially now that the show is still sort of in that. Do we want to continue to fund this kind of thing? So they're not going to contribute massive amounts of resources to this. So, yeah, so from that standpoint, it's like, yeah, there's so many fewer characters, ponies, locations, because, yeah, they don't have the time or the money, the resources to make those assets. So, yes, so that's, yeah, like, what happened to all the other creatures? We were friends with, like, the creatures in and around Equestria. What happened to them? I mean, I don't know if we're going to ever talk about that or find that out, because, yeah, it's one of those things that there may not be a story explanation as to why, but yeah, but obviously from a production standpoint, yes, they just simply don't have the resources to do all the characters and all the stuff that they did in Friendship is Magic, which is often why they do children's shows and stuff like Flash, because you can almost mass produce stuff. But, yeah, I mean, but you never know. There may be, I mean, we do see Sparky, so the dragons obviously may re-enter the picture in some way. But yeah, the short term, yeah, the ponies in some ways have a lot of their own problems right now. They have to sort out things between themselves before they could really go and like explore beyond the world of Equestria. But yeah, I mean, we know that Equestria is a lot bigger than these 3 towns, but it's also an interesting question itself. It's like, okay, how many ponies are in Equestria? It's never actually been stated how big Equestria is, but so it could be possible that, yeah, maybe all 3 pony kinds just move to new locations and stuff, so. Okay, next.
The other one left.
No one left? No, I think we got 2.
In there.
So I have a thought. So I have a theory about if you ever looked up Opaline's cutie mark, it looks like the what's it called? The Crystal Empire Castle in the center, and King Sombra's flamey eyes. So I believe they're related. I believe this is Flurry Heart. Because if you look at her hair with Flurry Heart, side by side, has the blue in her hair, They are different shades. Her, yeah, like a nightmare version. And like Luna, in the when we first see her, she's like light blue. Same with Flurry Heart. So, well, not light blue, but you know what I mean. Maybe over time she darkened, and maybe she's like traumatized from what she saw, and she just wants to release that anger on the world. Ponies.
I'm gonna say this is difficult.
Yeah. I literally just
the short
came up
answer
with
is that I don't really like these theories where it's like this is this character from Friendship is Magic, because that's like trying to insert characters from Friendship is Magic to here. Because the thing with this series is that they're not trying. I mean, yes, they threw a lot of the canon, G4 canon aside, but
Yeah.
they're not completely throwing it aside. They don't want to do that. They just want to make it so that, okay, if you've never seen Friendship is Magic, you can still enjoy the show. But if you've seen it before, it's like, oh, I remember that. So again, like in chapter 1, that it's like, the Unity crystals, I think they're powered by ponies. And I was thinking, no, really? But that's because I have a slight edge over them. I've watched 9 seasons of Friendship is Magic. We already know these sorts of things already. They're learning it for the first time. So, but yeah, I mean, well, I would say it's not impossible. I think Opaline is, and probably what I like to call the natural-born alicorns, like Celestia and Luna apparently are, and maybe she's been an alicorn for who knows how long. But again, as the directors say, anything's possible.
Kind of building off both previous questions here. Opaline has a castle. It's obviously not in Maretime Bay. It's obviously not in Bridlewood. It's not in Zephyr Heights. So yes, the world is bigger than just those three towns. We don't know where her castle really is located. So yeah, there is a larger world out there to explore. And as you said, the show may not have the budget to explore it, but maybe it will sometime. And kind of hoping that it does.
Yeah. I mean, oh yeah, totally. I mean, like, the rest of the world of Equestria, it didn't go away. It's just that, yeah, we just don't have the budget to go there or talk about it. So, yeah, like the rest of Equestria, we don't know. I mean,
It
like,
could
what
be
happens
that
to all
her
the other
castle is
towns?
the Crystal Empire castle. We don't know. I mean, it doesn't really look like it, but that, she's kind of out of the way of the others because they don't know she's there.
Yeah, I mean, I always feel like that castle is probably somewhere close to Maretime Bay because Misty has to keep running back and forth to it, so it can't be. So I don't think it's the Crystal Empire castle, because that's like all the way at the door for the Equestria.
How did they never noticed it?
It's like, how did you not notice this big giant glowing castle over there?
Exactly. Maybe, who knows? There's got to be a good explanation somehow.
It's what's
Yeah.
left of Candlelight Castle.
I thought that's Zephyr Heights.
That's my theory.
I thought Zephyr Heights was built on what was left of Candlelight.
I thought her castle was after some catastrophe. It took out most of the castle. That's what's left of it.
What did you say?
That's my theory about it.
That's unfortunately what I was thinking. It's like, I don't want to say that theory because that makes me sad. It's like, you know, most of that, you know, that castle basically is now rubble at the bottom of the cliff.
Right. She's taking.
Hence
over
why
what's
you don't
left.
usually build castles on the sides of cliffs.
That's the first thing that caught my eye. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's designed that's technically Candlelight was built in a caldera. Right. It looks like
This is a broken piece that's not going anywhere. And it looks like something horrible has happened to this castle at some point. I mean, you see up here,
landslide.
it's all like nice and clean. Here, it's almost feel like it's been infested or attacked by something. So yeah, there's definitely a story to this castle that we haven't yet been told yet.
As Maretime Bay would say, what was rebuilt out of left of Ponyville after some catastrophe. Candlelight is close by. That would definitely make logistics.
I mean, we don't know where Zephyr Heights is. I mean, we don't actually know where this is in reference to the rest of Equestria. I mean, like Ponyville was sort of like in the middle of Equestria.
Didn't they establish the locations fairly early in G4?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's maps. Yeah, there's maps. I've seen them. I have them. I'm going to assume they're reasonably accurate. But yeah, like Ponyville is sort of like in the middle. Canterlot is a little bit upwards. The Crystal Empire is all the way up in the north. Manhattan is on the east coast. Interestingly, in the thing with A New Generation, there's actually on the station, there's a location, Manhattan.
There's a map on this wall, but we don't actually get to see what's there. It is the sheriff's office.
Oh yeah, I've seen that map in those locations. I keep like, I want to see that.
I keep trying to freeze on it and then zoom in close.
It's like, it's difficult, it's annoying.
It pixelates too much.
Yeah, it's like, I know. It's like sometimes it's like, my
Denied.
screen resolution isn't high enough to analyze this properly. And there's parts where I will watch an episode and not attempt to analyze things.
I might have a theory of where Maretime Bay may be here. Basically, I would say it's probably in subtropical territory because, no pun intended, Cozy, or not Cozy, but Sonny did say it was the first snow day ever at Maretime Bay. I assume, how could that be possible here? Unless maybe it's in subtropical territory, kind of like cities like LA, which I am assuming the Maretime Bay is kind of there.
I believe you have a question?
Yes, what do you think is at the other end of the Zephyr Heights transport terminal?
What, you mean the station in A New Generation?
Right.
Yep. You don't build just one,
I
and
actually did a video kind of on this because the thing is that, why does it have this giant fan in the middle of the floor? It builds a station with a giant fan in the middle of the floor. And then if you look at the background in certain shots, you can see hanging from the ceiling. It looks like hot air balloon envelopes. So I think that the station was originally some sort of like hot air balloon terminal, and then you crane the envelopes over, you'd use the fan to like inflate it, and then you go and you fly off somewhere. So, but yeah, I've actually looked back at and in one shot there's a board that shows like departure times and all these things, and some of the locations are, again, unfortunately, that was one of those. It's my screen resolution is not high enough to really read these properly, but I've never found one. One was Manhattan. So yeah, so that place might have gone to all over places in Equestria. There.
I guess what if, like the whole magic thing, what if airplane always have magic?
What?
Like what if the airplane did have magic, it just, like you see in the past, like the unicorns and Pegasus had the airplanes to make food. And that was the only thing they could do, because that's the only magic they can do. Is when they keep going over and over to all different family members, they just kept doing that over and over, and the magic just didn't have to, no choice but to be like, touch the grass, and stuff like that. But now when the magic just closed, and now release, and now they just have this like, oh look at that, and having magical waves coming out. Maybe what that might happen. Just now magic is new. No longer you just have like this Applejack having an ocean of apples that somehow we ponies and just clearing Apple Smith, because now they can do all that without any help. Normally, like a few of the apples, you need a lot more people to harvest all those. It seems like it's a few days.
Oh, heck yes. I'm not really sure about I'm a little confused about what your question is, but I guess what you're saying is like magic being passed down through the generations?
Yeah, like what do you think about that? Like,
yeah, well,
like normal life, like you have a family that's doing this farm work over and over, but because you're so common that everyone's doing it, it seems like it's work, no one wants to change that.
I mean, it does. I mean, it's always been a question to me that I've always like, have Zippin Izzy ever had magic? I think the answer is probably no. Sometime between the separation and the reunification, at some point, magic stopped. They probably had it initially. It's like you can see, Zephyr Heights. It's on the mountain top. It's like, I doubt they would have done that if they didn't have the ability to fly and stuff. But at some point, it stops and it goes away. So at that point, all those things were probably lost. Again, these ponies are starting from zero. I mean, you see in Tell Your Tale, like Zip's flight school, it's like nobody here knows how to teach. You know, they're just relearning how to learn how to fly and stuff, and they need other ponies to teach them how to do that because they don't know how to do that. I think that, you know, when they first get magic back, they have like a rudimentary ability to fly, but it's in a very clumsy, like way.
For magic, they know only the most base, elementary kind of things.
Yeah,
so
like,
you can see we're opening with the single most powerful magical force on the planet.
Yeah, it's like, again, she's got the experience. She knows how to do stuff. And as Clone Wars says, experience outranks everything. To a point, of course. So yeah, these ponies, they have to, so unfortunately a lot of those things were probably lost, you know, because at some point it's like, hey, we can't fly, why should I even bother teaching this to someone? Those questions made that episode of Tell Your Tale. In flight school, it's like, it appears that Queen Haven is trying to teach Sith how to fly, but he doesn't seem to have the ability to fly, so what's the point in some ways? But yeah, but normally, totally, those things would be passed down the generation. All right. Anybody else have any other questions?
I want to see Sunny duke it out.
Oh, we will.
But my problem is, I think it's gonna go like the Dragon Ball Z way, where Sunny's gonna power up, and then Oakley's gonna power up even higher.
Yeah.
And Sunny has to power up even higher, and then everyone's gonna go Super Saiyan, and then
Yeah, I think that's going to be part of it, but I think there's going to, knowing this show, there'll be something else that's going on here.
But that going up one level of ability of the heroine, along with the villain's ability to improve their own power.
Yeah,
and I kind of wonder,
like who's going to get there first?
to me it feels like a drag race.
Yeah.
Who can figure out the most from the past first?
Yeah.
And who can outsmart the other?
Yeah.
It's not always. It's a lot of Twilight shows. She outsmarted Trixie by not using any magic.
Yeah, like I like that episode where it's like you're talking about magic, Jewel, right?
Just outsmart them.
Because that was the whole thing about that episode that I liked, is that the writers were very clever. It's like, this isn't about becoming more powerful than Trixie. This is about, how can I use the magic of friendship? And we're not talking about magical lasers to, outsmart Trixie, and ironically using her own show magic against her.
Wait a second, you gotta give credit to Sephora.
Oh yeah, she helped.
was the one who suggested.
Oh no, absolutely. She was the one that inspired Twilight to do that. Because I think that's what Twilight's in that. I have to become more powerful. No, Sakura's saying, no, you have to use the magic of friendship and use the 6 to overcome this. She's not talking about magic. She's talking about her just working with your friends to overcome this problem.
And I kind of wonder if Sunny can do the same thing, less powerful than Opaline.
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be a physical confrontation, but there's again, knowing this show, there's going to be something else that's going to happen as well. Oh.
Yeah. Do we know why Opaline seems to be holding her thunder right now? Because it seems to me, and I could be wrong, that it seems like she has a huge upper hand right now, and if she just acted, she
Come in there, just wipe them out.
Yeah,
Take over.
Blitz.
But there's a thing about
Basically,
Yeah. So
who's going to stop her?
Yeah. So what's causing
But she
her
doesn't know that.
hesitating from actually doing it?
See the thing, yeah. I mean, we hear in. I remember the episode. Anyway, one of the episodes of Make Your Mark, we hear that, she went up against the main 6 and lost. They took most of her magic away. So she's avoiding, this could be explaining why. She's avoiding the mistake that a lot of the supervillains make of, let's just bust down the front door and hope everything works out. She could walk through the Crystal Bright House and be staring down 12 armed guards, alarm systems, defenses. But of course, we know that's not true, it's just a house. But she doesn't know that. She wants to avoid to make that mistake. She wants to learn about it and magic and knows what she wants to do before she does it, so she doesn't just get her butt kicked again. It's like, so she's not moving now because she's compromised. I mean, she's way more powerful than the other ponies. In theory, yes, if she moves now, she would in theory kick their butts. But again, she doesn't know that. Oh, any other questions? Oh, there's a question back there.
I'm coming. I got you. I'm coming.
To add on to the Oakley thing, it could also be she's waiting for the other ponies to cultivate something. Magic is gone. Tradition is gone.
Oh yeah.
She very well might be I need something, but I don't know what I need, but I'll know it when I see it.
Yeah, because that's almost what we see her say that. It's like they took their time learning how to stabilize the magic. But now that they have, I will take back what is mine. So yeah, that's part of it as well, is that, yeah, she's, in some ways, she plans to let the magic grow and steal it at some point, because obviously if there's no magic to steal, then what's the point?
It could also just as easily be that her magic being sealed away the other magic, so she has to wait for it to get big enough to make a doorway to grab what she wants.
Yeah. And again, like she's sort of exploring. You see most of the early, chapters 1 and 2, sort of exploring. Okay, well, I could do this, I could do that, and what can I, what is going to accomplish the thing I want? Like she spends a couple episodes trying to go after the lantern, and then decides, you know what? We're wasting time chasing this enchanted relic. Let's go get something back that will instantly get my powers back. Dragon fire.
We got time for one last question.
guess we're done. Yeah. So, thank you for coming. I hope you enjoy this panel, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your SeaquestriaFest. So, until next time, this is Blue Star. Stay strong and pony on. Blue Star out.